Episode 12, Celestial Chaos, Part 1. The mansion had never been in such a state of pure, glorious panic, ever since Nyx casually dropped that her father, Chaos, the first Celestial, the literal creator of the entire universe, was coming to visit this weekend. The Moonverse Sirens had lost their minds in the most entertaining way possible. Starla was sprinting around the living room in a glittery panic, trying to remove the 6 permanent stripper poles she had installed in every major section of the mansion. "I can't let the creator of everything see my temple of booty," she wailed, hanging upside down on one pole while trying to unscrew it with a screwdriver in her teeth. "This is a sacred space." Alexa was glitching wildly, yanking knives out of the walls and ceiling with aggressive little grunts. "I threw like 47 of these last week. Why are there so many?" One knife stayed stubbornly embedded. She glared at it. "You're coming out whether you like it or not, you little bastard." The baby ice dragons, Frost and Glacier, were having the time of their tiny, chaotic lives. They kept freezing random cleaning supplies, turning mops into ice sculptures and making the floor a slippery nightmare. Skadi was chasing them with her axe, yelling, "This is not training time," while trying not to laugh. Gaia had grown an emergency garden in the corner to make the place look more wholesome, but the plants kept getting overly excited and blooming in very suggestive shapes. She kept muttering, "Not now, not now." Jamesen was in the middle of it all, looking equal parts amused and terrified, trying to help move furniture while Luna floated around directing everyone like a glowing, stressed-out conductor. In the middle of the madness, Nyx sat calmly in her favorite dark corner, sipping red wine and watching the chaos with pure entertainment sparkling in her eyes. Every time someone ran to her asking, "What does your dad like? What does he hate?" she would just let out that low, chaotic little laugh, the kind that made it impossible to tell if she was terrified or absolutely thrilled. Alexa pointed a knife at her. "This is your fault. You could at least help." Nyx smiled wider, eyes glowing faintly. "And ruin the show? Never." The mansion was a whirlwind of glitter, knives, frozen socks, and panicked laughter. Everyone was cleaning, hiding evidence of their wild lifestyle, and low-key freaking out about what the actual creator of the universe would think of their beautiful, ridiculous home. Seraphina, still new to the family, watched it all with wide eyes and a growing smile. This is normal for you guys?" Luna floated by, kissing her cheek quickly. "Welcome to Thursday." The panic in the mansion had reached peak levels. Starla was still trying to hide the last stripper pole behind a suspiciously placed couch. Alexa had given up on the knives and was now just throwing them into a closet while muttering threats. The baby ice dragons had turned the kitchen floor into an ice rink, and Jamesen was carefully sliding across it, trying to carry a tray of drinks. Then everything changed. The sunny sky outside the mansion windows suddenly went dark, not just cloudy, but pitch black, like the universe had flipped a switch. A low rumble started in the ground, growing into a full earthquake that shook the crystal walls. Furniture rattled. A few of Starla's hidden glitter cannons went off by accident, spraying sparkles everywhere. Nyx stood up slowly from her corner, her eyes glowing with something between excitement and mischief. A wide, psychotic little smile spread across her face as she whispered, "Daddy's here." The laugh that followed was pure Nyx, low, chaotic, and completely unreadable. Half the sirens froze, unsure if she was terrified or thrilled. Alexa gripped her last knife tighter. Starla whispered, "We're so dead." The front doors of the mansion swung open with a deep, cosmic boom. No one had touched them. In walked Chaos. He was tall, imposing, and somehow both ancient and timeless. Dark, flowing robes that seemed to contain entire galaxies, eyes like swirling voids, and an aura that made the air feel heavier. He didn't speak at first. He simply walked through the mansion, observing everything with a completely unreadable expression. The stripper poles, the knives still stuck in the walls, the baby ice dragons sliding across the frozen kitchen floor, the half-hidden glitter cannons, Gaia's overly suggestive blooming plants. Everyone held their breath. Chaos stopped directly in front of Jamesen. The room went dead silent. Jamesen looked up at the literal creator of the universe, the being who made everything, and felt his heart hammering in his chest. Chaos stared at him, completely stoic, eyes boring straight into his soul. The tension was unbearable. Jamesen swallowed hard, looking up at the towering figure of Chaos. The entire mansion was silent except for the faint sound of one of the baby ice dragons sliding across the floor in the background. Finally, Jameson found his voice. "Welcome, Sir Chaos," he said, trying to sound respectful while his heart tried to escape his chest. "I'm very happy and extremely terrified you're here right now. Can I get you something to drink?" A long, heavy pause. Chaos stared at him for what felt like an eternity, his void-like eyes unblinking. Then, in a deep, resonant voice that seemed to echo from the beginning of time itself, he spoke. "You are the mortal who married my daughter's closest friend and somehow convinced a group of the most unhinged goddesses in existence to move into your house and start a music empire about tearing veils and free love." The sirens shifted nervously. Starla whispered, "He knows about the stripper poles." Chaos continued, his tone stern and stoic, with just the faintest hint of dry amusement underneath. "I have heard your albums. I have read the story you published, the one about the narcoleptic mortal who accidentally tore the veil with a dream proposal and ended up with 12 chaotic celestials turning his life into a circus of music, lust, and glitter cannons." He looked slowly around the room, at the half-hidden poles, the knives still in the walls, the baby ice dragons now hiding behind Skadi's legs. "I must admit I was concerned." The tension spiked. Alexa gripped her knife tighter. Luna's glow flickered. Even Nyx looked like she was thoroughly enjoying the show. Chaos turned back to Jameson, his expression still unreadable. A mortal, limited, fragile, sleeping through most of his own existence, and yet you managed to do what many immortal beings still cannot figure out. You created something real, something honest, something that celebrates chaos instead of fearing it. He paused, then the faintest, driest smile touched his lips. "Congratulations, Jameson. You have truly impressed me." The whole mansion let out a collective breath. Starla nearly fainted. Jameson stood there stunned, a big, relieved, slightly terrified smile spreading across his face. The tension in the room broke like a dam. Everyone let out a collective breath, some laughing nervously, others still wide-eyed. Nyx finally stepped out of her shadowy corner, still smiling that chaotic little grin. She walked up beside Chaos and casually patted his arm like he was any other dad. "That was one of your best entrances, Daddy," she said sweetly. "I think you really got them. Great show, old man." Chaos let out a deep, rumbling chuckle, the sound like distant thunder mixed with amusement. For the first time, his stoic expression softened into something almost fond. The sirens slowly relaxed. Starla dramatically flopped onto the couch. Alexa put her knives away, mostly. The baby ice dragons peeked out, curious. Jameson was still smiling like he'd just survived a cosmic job interview. Luna floated over, glowing warmly. "So, you're not here to smite us for the stripper poles and knife walls?" Chaos looked around the mansion again, at the glitter, the half-hidden chaos, the loving mess of it all, and shook his head with a small, dry smile. "I came because I heard the story, the albums, the mortal who tore the veil with nothing but love and stubbornness. I was curious." He turned back to Jameson, his voice deep but surprisingly kind. "I am very impressed, Jameson. As a mortal, you have done what many of my own children still struggle with. You chose to live freely, to love freely, to thrive in the chaos instead of fearing it. That is rare, and it is worthy of pride." The room got warmer. Jameson's eyes shone with emotion. The sirens gathered closer, a big, glowing, chaotic family. Chaos continued, a spark of humor in his ancient eyes. "I also have some stories, old ones, very old. Some of them are quite entertaining. Perhaps we can turn a few into songs as well." Starla's eyes lit up. "New material from the actual creator of the universe? Yes, please." Nyx smirked. "Careful, Daddy. They'll turn your creation myth into a banger with a dance break." Laughter filled the mansion, real, warm, relieved laughter. Chaos stood among them, no longer quite so intimidating, just a cosmic dad visiting his daughter's wild, loving, ridiculous family. Jameson looked around at all of them, Luna, the sirens, Seraphina, and now even Chaos, and felt something settle deep in his chest. This was home, this was the Moonverse, and it was only getting started. End of episode 12, end of season 1, Band to Boss.